We all know there's been a sharp rise in gun violence across the city of Portland. Now the big question is, what are we going to do about this?
Today, city law enforcement and interfaith leaders met to answer that. And all new tonight, we're hearing what Mayor Wheeler is giving the green light to police to do. Fox 12's Sarah Hurwitz spoke with Pastor Matt Hennessy, who was part of that meeting. She joins us live with his thoughts on how the city makes a change. Sarah?
Well, yeah, we're here off of North Vancouver and Monroe, where it recently saw gun violence. This street corner here is like many in the city that have seen gun violence, as we've seen more than 100 shootings this year. Pastor Hennessy says to stop this, it's going to take everyone in the community. Hope that conversations on how to combat gun violence in Portland will soon turn to action.
The major goal is to begin to stem the tide so that resources are available to really be put in place, both from a preventative and an investigative standpoint.
Pastor Matt Hennessy of Vancouver Avenue First Baptist Church feels in a week to 10 days, city leaders must announce a solidified plan.
Right now we've got a short-term issue that we're like, the barn is burning and we need to get a fire hose to it. People need to know that actually work is being done on this, and that we are not going to have this much going on and not care about the lives of people that has been lost, injured, or traumatized, because I don't think people can wait a lot longer.
Today, Mayor Wheeler did address a memorandum from Police Chief Chuck Lavelle for the next steps. The mayor says he authorizes the shooting review to identify those at risk of gun violence. He also says he supports deploying a PPB sergeant, 4 officers, and 2 detectives to be on call to respond to shootings 24/7. Now, Pastor Hennessy recognizes the dramatic spike in shootings since the gun violence reduction team was dissolved.
What I think is extremely important is that whether you call it a gun violence reduction team or not, there are functions that they performed that were extremely important in helping us keep the number of shots fired, the number of people injured, the number of people dead, and the number of people traumatized far lower than certainly what has happened since the team was disbanded.
And he says he doesn't necessarily think the GVRT needs to come back, but its functions do. When that team was dissolved, there was strong community pushback about how it was disproportionately policing black people.
Trust can be literally obliterated by one incident alone. You can take 10 wonderful steps forward and 1 backward.
So how do police rebuild trust, particularly with the black community?
But I also believe it's the importance of forums that are held when there's not a crisis.
Pastor Hennessy says law enforcement and the community should be breaking bread together. He says the foundation to trust is understanding. Having the community sit in on police trainings and ride-alongs could help rebuild relationships.
When we have a family member or a friend that is in crisis, when we call the police, we want somebody to show up. And I believe that that's important. I'm not a believer that somehow we need to police ourselves. I do believe very much that we need to build stronger ties between police and community.
Now, during that meeting this morning, Mayor Wheeler said that he understands that increasing patrol officers on the streets could help deter gun violence, but he also said that this process needs to be thoughtful, really thinking about the history that we already have with those kinds of stops. Reporting live here in Northeast Portland, Sarah Hurwitz, Fox 12 Oregon.